A U.S. and Israeli delegation arrived in the United Arab Emirates on Monday aboard the first ever direct commercial passenger flight between the two countries. The flight marks a major step in relations between Israel and the UAE after the two nations achieved a historic breakthrough when they announced plans to work toward full normalization of relations in mid-August. Our Kim Jae-hee has this report.
The first ever direct commercial passenger flight from Israel to the United Arab Emirates flew through Saudi Arabian airspace on Monday, carrying a high-ranking U.S. and Israeli delegation. The 3-hour flight looks to place a solid stamp on the historic U.S.-brokered peace deal to normalize relations between Israel and the UAE, laying a roadmap to joint cooperation. Speaking on arrival, U.S. President Donald Trump's senior advisor and son-in-law, Jared Kushner, celebrated the historic flight.
We just completed a truly historic flight, the first ever commercial flight from Israel to an Arab Gulf country. Also historic was the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia granting permission for this Israeli commercial flight to use its airspace. This is the first time that this has ever happened.
Israel's prime minister also hailed the plane's landing and announced he had invited a UAE delegation to visit Israel.
A historical day, a happy day for all citizens of Israel, a day of victory for the doctrine of peace in exchange for peace. Under my guidance, the head of the delegation invited the United Arab Emirates delegation to Israel, and I can tell you that we will receive them with a red carpet like they received us.
With the U.S. as a mediator, the two nations achieved a historic diplomatic breakthrough when they announced their agreement to work toward full normalization of relations on August 13th. Palestinians, however, have fiercely opposed the normalization, seeing the deal as a betrayal. The UAE is only the third Arab country in the Middle East to recognize Israel after Egypt and Jordan. Kim Jae-hee, Arirang News.